The ballroom at the Hawthorne Foundation Christmas Gala held 400 of Chicago's wealthiest donors, and not one of them knew how to talk to the little girl at table 12. Isabella Whitmore sat in a silver dress with tiny snowflakes stitched into the fabric. 8 years old, dark curls tied back with a velvet ribbon, hands folded in her lap, plate untouched. The tech CEO's wife beside her had tried once, leaned in, said something with a smile too big, too slow, too loud. Isabella stared at the woman's mouth. The woman turned to the hedge fund manager on her left and didn't look back. This story is inspired by real events, but all names, characters, and details have been fictionalized for privacy and creative purposes. Under the tablecloth, Isabella reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a crumpled index card, a stick figure drawing of 2 hands signing "Hello," colored in green crayon. She'd made it when she was 5, carried it every day since. The edges were soft from 3 years of folding and unfolding. Across the ballroom, Stellan Whitmore watched his daughter from behind an untouched glass of Moet, 38 years old. Founder and CEO of Meridian Logistics, net worth $3.2 billion. He'd restructured dying companies in 48 hours, negotiated shipping contracts across 4 continents, and once fired a CFO mid-sentence during a board call. Right now, his jaw was locked so tight the muscle above his ear pulsed. He knew basic ASL. Enough to sign, "Are you okay?" Enough to sign, "I love you." But his hands always moved like he was filling out tax forms. Stiff, mechanical, ashamed. And Isabella knew it. She always knew. Welcome to Impressive Stories, where the moments that change everything start with the people nobody notices. Then a server approached table 12. Young, mid-20s, auburn hair in a loose bun, sleeves rolled above her wrists, name tag, Clara Bennett. She didn't wave. She didn't lean in with pity. She crouched to eye level and signed one word. "Hello." Smooth, natural, like she'd been signing since before she could walk. Isabella froze. Her eyes went wide. Then, slowly, a smile broke across her face. A real one. The kind Stellan hadn't seen in weeks. He stood up so fast his chair scraped marble. Within a minute, Isabella's hands were flying, telling Clara about her telescope, about Orion's belt, about how she hated these grown-up dinners. Clara signed back, laughing silently, matching Isabella's speed. Stellan approached them. His throat was tight. "You know sign language," he said. Clara stood. "Yes, sir. My brother's deaf. ASL was our first language at home." Isabella tugged her father's sleeve, signed fast. "She signs fast like me." Stellan hesitated. "What did she say?" Clara translated, then looked at him, not judging, not accusing, just honest. "You could learn to sign fast like her, too." Nobody talked to Stellan Whitmore that way. Nobody dared. But there was no challenge in her voice, only invitation. And for the first time in 4 years, Stellan Whitmore had absolutely nothing to say. "Before we go on, this billionaire has everything. Private jets, a penthouse on the Chicago River, a company worth billions. But right now, he's watching a waitress do something he hasn't managed in 4 years. Here's my question. Do you think it was the money that eventually changed everything? Or something money could never buy? Drop money or heart in the comments. And let's see if you're right by the end." 2 days later, Christmas Eve, Stellan's penthouse in the Meridian Tower, River North, a $28 million glass box overlooking the Chicago River. Everything was steel, marble, and silence. The Bose sound system was off. The Sub-Zero fridge hummed behind brushed aluminum. The only warmth in the entire place came from Isabella's room. Glow-in-the-dark star charts on the ceiling, a Celestron telescope aimed at Orion, and crayon drawings of planets with faces taped to every wall. Stellan tracked Clara down through the Hawthorne Hotel's catering agency, called her directly. "I'd like to hire you," he said. "Private ASL tutoring, $500 an hour." Silence on the line. Then, "No." Stellan pulled the phone from his ear and looked at it. "Excuse me?" I charge 45 an hour. That's my rate. I'm not raising it because your last name's on a building. His jaw tightened. Miss Bennett, and the lessons have to include both of you. You and Isabella, together. I'm not teaching her a language she already speaks. I'm teaching you one you should have learned 4 years ago. His CFO didn't turn down his money. His ex-wife didn't turn down his money. His own lawyers negotiated up, not down. Why? He asked. Because this isn't for you, Mr. Whitmore. It's for her. The first lesson happened that evening. Clara took the red line from Bridgeport, 25 minutes, then walked 8 blocks in the December wind. Stellan had offered a car. She'd said, "I've been taking the L since high school. I'll survive." Stellan sat at the kitchen table. Isabella sat across from him, bouncing in her chair. Clara stood between them with a whiteboard. "Let's start with the alphabet," Clara said. Stellan's hands felt like they were wearing concrete gloves. He fumbled the letter F. Got G wrong twice. Isabella signed "No, Dad," like this, and dissolved into giggles when his fingers refused to cooperate. Clara corrected him gently. Isabella corrected him bluntly. And somewhere between the 8th mistake and the 12th, something shifted. The penthouse didn't feel like a museum anymore. It felt like something was trying to breathe in it. Then Stellan's phone rang. Victoria Ashford Crane, chair of the Hawthorne Gala Committee, Old Money, Chicago. Her voice dripped with Chanel and condescension. "Stellan, darling, I just wanted to say, I love that you bring Isabella to these events. It's so brave." He gripped the phone. "I just wonder," Victoria continued, "if she might be more comfortable at a children's program next time. We partner with Lakeside Youth Services. Much more appropriate for her needs." Appropriate for her needs. The words landed like a backhand. Stellan thanked her. Hung up. Sat in the dark kitchen for 20 minutes after Isabella went to bed. On her way out, Clara zipped her coat, a North Face that had seen better winters, and her phone buzzed. She read the text. Her face went tight. She shoved it into her pocket and said goodnight without making eye contact. Something just happened. And she wasn't saying what. January 8th, 2 weeks after the gala. The Hawthorne Foundation hosted a New Year donor reception, smaller this time. 60 people. Cocktail format. Same hotel, same chandeliers, twice the politics. Stellan brought Isabella. He'd been practicing for 14 days straight. His ASL was still rough. Choppy sentences, dropped signs, the kind of grammar that would make a Gallaudet professor wince. But it was real. He could say, "What do you want to eat?" He could say, "Tell me about the stars?" He could hold a 2-minute exchange without reaching for his phone to type. Isabella didn't care about perfection. She cared that he was trying. They stood near the bar. Stellan signed, "Do you want juice?" And Isabella signed back, "Apple." "Not orange. Orange is gross." He laughed. She laughed. 3 donors nearby watched them with curiosity. Not pity. Interest. Then Victoria Ashford Crane materialized. She moved through the room like she owned the deed to every conversation. Herringbone blazer. David Yurman bracelet. A smile that never quite reached her eyes. She spotted Stellan and Isabella signing, walked straight toward them. "Oh, how wonderful," Victoria said, crouching in front of Isabella. She reached out and patted the girl's head. Isabella flinched. Full body. Shoulders pulling inward, chin dropping. She didn't like being touched by people she didn't know. Victoria stood. Didn't notice. Didn't care. She turned to Stellan and spoke loud enough for every donor within 15 feet to hear. "You know, Stellan, I was just telling the board. We really should develop a separate children's program for little ones like Isabella. Something quieter, more structured, more appropriate for their needs." There it was again. Appropriate for their needs. The same phrase. Spoken like a press release. Executed like a scalpel. 3 donors shifted uncomfortably. A retired federal judge named Margaret Hale, 71, silver-haired, 7th Circuit, raised one eyebrow but said nothing. Stellan's jaw locked. He was the foundation's largest anonymous donor. $12 million over 3 years. He'd funded the very gala Victoria was standing in. One phone call, and he could have her removed from the board by breakfast. But if he did that, he'd be doing exactly what Clara had warned against, throwing power at the problem instead of standing in it, and Isabella was watching. He signed to his daughter, "Let's go home." Isabella's face fell. "Already? We just got here." He signed. "I know, but I want to practice more." Her face lit up. She took his hand. They left. Victoria watched them go, sipping Veuve Clicquot, certain she'd won. She hadn't even begun to lose. Outside, waiting for the car, Stellan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "Mr. Whitmore, I need to tell you something about what happened at the gala. It concerns Clara. M. Hale, the retired judge." She'd been watching, and she was ready to talk. January 15th. The lessons had been running 3 weeks. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m., Clara took the red line from Bridgeport to River North, walked 8 blocks, and taught Stellan and Isabella at the kitchen table. Stellan offered to send a car every single time. Clara declined every single time. "I've been riding the CTA since I was 14. The day I need a town car is the day I stop being me." And then she missed a session. No call, no text. Isabella sat at the kitchen table at 6:05, flashcards spread out, signing, "Where's Clara?" Over and over until Stellan had to put his hand gently on hers and sign, "I don't know." 2 days later, he met Margaret Hale at a diner on Michigan Avenue. Lou Mitchell's, cracked vinyl booths, the smell of hash browns and burnt coffee, a short-order cook yelling, "2 over easy, table 6, behind the counter. Margaret didn't waste time. Victoria pressured the Hawthorne Hotel to fire Clara, cited unprofessional conduct, fraternizing with guests at a foundation event. She placed her phone on the table. An email, forwarded from the hotel's event director. Victoria's words. "The server who disrupted Mr. Whitmore's table should be reassigned permanently. This is a formal request from the gala committee." Stellan stared at the screen. His hand shook, not from anger, from something worse. Guilt. Clara lost her main income because she signed hello to his daughter. He called Clara that afternoon. She picked up on the 6th ring. Her voice was level. Too level. "I'm fine," she said. "It's Chicago. Somebody always needs a server." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to fix it." "That's not why I'm here." That sentence hit him harder than any boardroom loss he'd ever taken. She didn't want him to fix it. Everyone in his life wanted him to fix things. His board, his investors, his lawyers. Clara was the first person who told him to just show up instead. He offered a full-time salary. She said no, but he quietly funded a Northwestern graduate research stipend through the university, routed through the dean's office, no name attached. Clara's tuition got covered. She never knew where it came from. Victoria just got Clara fired, a 26-year-old grad student working 3 jobs, because she dared to sign hello to a deaf child. If this happened to someone you loved, what would you do? Would you expose Victoria immediately? Or wait for the right moment? Tell me in the comments. That evening, Isabella did something she'd never done before. She pulled out a notebook, the one she always carried in her backpack. Inside were dozens of pages of invented signs. "Bella sign," she called it. Signs for things ASL didn't have words for. The feeling of looking through a telescope, the taste of snow on your tongue, the sound of silence. She flipped to the last page and showed Stellan a new sign, 2 hands opening outward, palms up, fingers spreading like rays. It meant people who try. She pointed at her father, then at Clara's empty chair. Stellan's eyes burned. He signed, "What about you?" Isabella shook her head, signed, "I don't try. I already know." February. 6 weeks of lessons. Stellan's ASL was conversational now. Imperfect, sometimes clumsy, but real enough to argue with Isabella about bedtime and lose. The penthouse kitchen table had transformed. No more investor decks, no more takeout containers from Alinea. The surface was covered in ASL flashcards, Isabella's astronomy drawings, and Clara's dog-eared Northwestern textbooks. A chipped ceramic mug, Clara's, sat in the same spot every session. Stellan's housekeeper had stopped moving it. One Saturday, Clara invited them to Bridgeport. Her apartment sat above a Polish deli on Halsted Street, second floor. The stairwell smelled like pierogi and laundry detergent. The radiator clanked every 90 seconds like a drunk drummer with one stick. The walls were covered in ASL practice charts, Northwestern study guides, and photos of her brother Sean at his high school graduation, signing his speech, grinning so wide his eyes disappeared. Sean Bennett was home. 19. Deaf since birth. Sophomore at UIC studying graphic design. The second Isabella walked through the door, their hands started flying. Stellan couldn't follow. They were signing at double speed, laughing, arguing about whether Jupiter's great red spot counted as a face. Within 10 minutes, Isabella was teaching Sean her Bella signs, and Sean was showing her how to draw constellations as graphic designs. They sat on the floor with colored markers and butcher paper, building a galaxy together. Stellan sat at Clara's kitchen table. The mug she gave him had a chip on the rim and a faded Northwestern logo. The coffee was Folgers, not the blue bottle cold brew stocked in his penthouse. The chair wobbled. He watched his daughter light up in a 2-bedroom apartment that cost less than his monthly car payment. He looked at the chipped mugs, the highlighted textbooks, the photos of a family that learned an entirely different language, not because they hired someone, but because they loved someone enough to meet them where they were. The Bennetts didn't throw money at Sean's deafness. They threw themselves at it. Every dinner, every grocery run, every argument about chores, all in ASL from day one. That was the difference. Clara sat across from him and pushed the Folgers toward him. "You're getting better," she said. He signed back, slowly. "I'm trying." She signed. That's all she ever wanted. Stellan just realized something he couldn't learn from any boardroom. A 2-bedroom apartment on the south side taught him more about connection than a $28 million penthouse. Has there ever been a moment in your life when someone's small world showed you what was missing in your big one? Share it below. I'd love to read it. On the drive home, Isabella fell asleep in the back seat, marker stains on her fingers. Clara texted Stellan, "I need to tell you something. It's about the foundation. Someone told Victoria you're LSD7. I don't know how, but she knows." Stellan's hands tightened on the steering wheel of his Escalade. LSD7. The anonymous donor code tied to his Lakeshore Drive address, his $12.4 million. If Victoria knew, she wouldn't be grateful. She'd use it. March 3rd. Foundation board meeting. The Hawthorne Hotel. Same ballroom, reconfigured into a U-shaped table for 12 board members. Fluorescent lights instead of chandeliers. Coffee from a Keurig instead of champagne. The room smelled like photocopier toner and ambition. Victoria Ashford Crane chaired the meeting. She wore a cream blazer. Her reading glasses sat on the tip of her nose like a weapon she hadn't decided to use yet. She opened with a transparency initiative, a proposal that all major foundation donors be publicly identified for accountability. She didn't say LSD7. She didn't say Stellan's name. She let the implications settle like cigarette smoke in a closed room. Then she escalated. During the community feedback segment, Victoria read a prepared statement, framed as a letter from a concerned supporter. The statement questioned whether foundation events were appropriate environments for children with special needs. It suggested that bringing a deaf child to adult galas creates liability concerns and puts undue pressure on staff. While this story draws inspiration from real-life experiences of families navigating deafness and social inclusion, all characters, institutions, and events are entirely fictional. Stellan sat across the table. His body was still. His eyes tracked Victoria the way a man watches a rattlesnake deciding whether to strike. Margaret Hale sat 3 seats to the left. She said nothing, but she wrote something on her legal pad, underlined it twice. After the meeting, Victoria caught Stellan in the corridor, sparkling water in one hand, a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Stellan, darling, I'm trying to protect your image." She lowered her voice. "Bringing a deaf child to these events is brave." "Truly. But having your little sign language tutor double as your daughter's babysitter at my gala? That's a headline you don't want." His pulse hammered. He could end her right now. One phone call to the foundation's executive director. One reveal of LSD-7. One sentence. "I paid for the room you're standing in." But Clara's voice echoed in his head. "Not for you. For her." He walked away, down the corridor, out the revolving door, into the March Chicago wind that cut through his overcoat like it wasn't there. That night, he called Clara, told her everything Victoria said, a long silence. Then Clara said something he didn't expect. "She's right about one thing." His stomach dropped. "What?" "You are hiding. Not your money, not your identity. You're hiding from the fact that you're ashamed of how long it took you to learn your daughter's language. And until you stop hiding that shame, Victoria will keep using it as a weapon." The line went quiet. Stellan stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, 27 floors above the river. The city stretched out below him, every light, every building, every bridge, and none of it meant anything compared to what a 26-year-old grad student from the South Side just said to him on a Tuesday night. He had nothing to say. For the second time in his life, Stellan Whitmore was completely, utterly silent. April 12th. Victoria hosted a Foundation Children's Inclusion Showcase at the Hawthorne Hotel, a PR event. Her idea, her production, her redemption tour. She'd invited families with deaf children, hired a professional ASL interpreter, arranged photographers from Chicago Magazine, and set up a backdrop with the Foundation logo and soft lighting. Every detail was curated for her Instagram. Stellan brought Isabella. Clara came as a guest, not a server, not a tutor. She wore a navy dress instead of a catering uniform. First time Victoria had seen her without an apron. Victoria noticed. Her smile tightened like a guitar string about to snap. The event moved through its planned segments. A welcome video, a donor thank you, a panel on inclusion in practice that featured Victoria center stage, talking about the work we do for these beautiful children, while the actual families sat in folding chairs behind her. Then came the children's presentation. Victoria's centerpiece. Each child had been coached to sign a rehearsed thank you to the Foundation on camera. Scripted. Choreographed. Performance compassion at its finest. When Isabella's turn came, she walked to the front of the room, stood in front of the camera, looked directly into the lens, and didn't follow the script. Her hands moved, rapid, fluid, defiant. Not a thank you. A story. About a queen who threw parties for people she didn't love, who smiled for cameras but whispered behind doors, who called children special when she meant less than, who patted their heads like pets and forgot their names by morning. The room went silent. Clara stood from her chair in the front row. Her voice was steady, clear, and devastating as she translated every word. There was a queen who built a castle out of other people's kindness. She put children in the window so everyone would think she cared. But the children could see through the glass. They always could. The photographers kept shooting. A mother of a deaf teenager in the third row stood up and signed to Isabella. "Thank you." Victoria's smile was frozen. Her hands gripped the edge of the podium, manicured nails bending backward against the lacquered wood. Isabella finished, looked at her father, signed, "Was that okay?" Stellan signed back. His best sentence yet, clean and precise. That was exactly right. The event ended 30 minutes early. Victoria claimed a scheduling conflict. Her staff dismantled the backdrop in silence. That night, Margaret Hale emailed every board member, attached, a video of Isabella's signing, recorded on a donor's iPhone. Clara's translation audio synced over it. Subject line, "This is what inclusion actually looks like." Second attachment, the Foundation's anonymous donor report, LSD-7 circled in red. Margaret was ready to play her card. November. 11 months since the first gala. The Meridian Tower penthouse had become a different place. Not because Stellan remodeled, because the kitchen table told a different story now. ASL flashcards, Isabella's constellation drawings, half-finished mugs of Folgers that Clara brought from Bridgeport because she said Stellan's blue bottle was too expensive to taste like anything. Stellan's ASL was fluent enough to argue with Isabella about bedtime. He did it every night. She won every time. Clara had been accepted into Northwestern's doctoral program. Her research focus, ASL acquisition in late learning adults. Her primary case study, anonymized, was Stellan. She'd titled her preliminary paper, The Cost of Delay, Parental Language Acquisition After Childhood, Hearing Loss. The data was devastating and beautiful at the same time. One evening, after Isabella fell asleep on the couch, an astronomy book open on her chest, her mouth slightly open, the flashcard still in her coat pocket on the hook by the door, Stellan and Clara sat on the balcony, 27 floors up, the Chicago skyline sharp and cold, Lake Michigan black beyond the buildings. Stellan signed to Clara. No voice. All hands. I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. She waited. When Isabella lost her hearing, I didn't throw money at it because I thought money could fix it. I threw money at it because I was terrified. Terrified that if I sat in the silence with her, really sat in it, I'd have to admit I didn't know how to be a father without a plan, without a spreadsheet, without a quarterly target. My whole life is control, and her world is the one place I can't control anything. So I stayed in mine, and I left her in hers. His hands shook on the last sign. Clara reached across and held them still. Not romantic. Not yet. Just steady, she signed. You're here now. That's the only outcome that matters. He told her the plan. Next month, the Christmas gala. 1 year to the day from the night they met. He was going to reveal his LSD-7 identity, announce a new foundation initiative, and he was going to do it in a SL. All of it? Clara asked. All of it. In front of 400 people? In front of Victoria. Clara studied his face. Are you sure? Stellan looked through the glass at Isabella sleeping on the couch. The flashcard was visible, the corner of green crayon poking out of her coat pocket. She's been ready for 3 years, he signed. I'm the one who was late. The next morning, the foundation's executive director called. The board had voted for an emergency governance review of the gala committee. Victoria Ashford Crane had been asked to attend a leadership conversation before the December event. Margaret Hale was leading it. The walls were closing in. December 21st. 1 year later. The Hawthorne Foundation Christmas Gala. Same ballroom. Same crystal chandeliers. Same jazz quartet. Same $62 lobster bisque. 400 donors. Black tie. Champagne. The same room where Isabella Whitmore had sat alone at a table for 12, holding a green crayon flashcard under the tablecloth. Not tonight. Tonight, Isabella stood between Stellan and Clara near the front of the ballroom. She wore a deep blue dress, her choice. She was teaching Sean Bennett a new Bella sign, the sign for telescope. Both hands spiraling outward like a galaxy expanding. Sean laughed and tried it. Got it wrong. Isabella corrected him the way she corrected her father, bluntly, with love. Victoria Ashford Crane sat at table 1. The board's governance review hadn't removed her, but it stripped her of the gala committee chair. She was a regular donor now, seated, not standing, not commanding. Her champagne was untouched. Her smile was tight. At 8:15 p.m., the foundation's executive director took the stage. We have a special presentation tonight from a foundation member who has asked to address the room. Stellan walked to the podium. He didn't open with a number, didn't mention his company, didn't reference his net worth. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled index card. Green crayon, stick figure hands signing hello. 3 years of wear on the edges. He held it up for 400 people to see. My daughter made this when she was 5, he said. His voice was steady. She's carried it in her pocket for 3 years, 3 years, waiting for someone. Anyone to learn one word in her language. He paused. The ballroom was silent. The jazz quartet had stopped. Last year, at this gala, my daughter sat alone at a table for 12. Not one person knew how to say hello to her. Not one person tried. He looked at Clara in the front row, except a waitress, a 26-year-old catering server making $9 an hour who crouched down, looked my daughter in the eye, and signed one word. He set the microphone down. Then Stellan Whitmore, CEO, Billionaire, the man who controlled shipping routes across 3 oceans, signed his statement in ASL in front of 400 people, slowly, imperfectly, completely. My name is Stellan. I am Isabella's father. For 4 years, I thought silence was the problem. I was wrong. I was the problem. I had all the money in the world and not enough courage to learn my daughter's language. Tonight, I am not asking for your applause. I am asking you to learn one word. He signed it. Hello, Clara translated from the front row, tears on her face. Voice rock steady. 400 chairs scraped backward as the room stood. The sound rolled through the ballroom like distant thunder. Wood on marble, bodies rising, a collective exhale of something that had been held too long. Victoria set her champagne down. Her hand was shaking, because what came next was worse than a speech. Margaret Hale was walking to the podium. Margaret Hale took the podium with the calm precision of a woman who'd spent 30 years on the federal bench. No notes, no script, just a voice that could fill a courtroom or silence a room of 400 donors. For 3 years, she said. This foundation's largest anonymous donor has funded 40% of our total programming. Tonight, transparency isn't a proposal. It's a fact. She turned to Stellan. LSD7 is Stellan Whitmore. His cumulative donation to this foundation, $12.4 million. He funded children's programs, deaf education scholarships, medical research grants, all anonymously. He never asked for a gala seat. He never asked for recognition. She paused. Let the number land. While some members of this board questioned whether his daughter belonged in this room, he was quietly paying for the room itself. 400 heads turned toward table 1. Victoria Ashford Crane didn't move. Her champagne glass was empty. Her lips were a thin line. The woman who'd called Isabella's presence a liability was sitting in a ballroom that existed because of Isabella's father. Stellan returned to the podium. His voice was calm. Tonight, I'm announcing the Isabella Project, a $50 million initiative for deaf children's education, early language intervention, and family ASL training programs nationwide. He looked at Clara. Its inaugural program director, Clara Bennett, master's candidate at Northwestern University, the woman who walked 8 blocks in December Chicago, cold to teach a billionaire how to say hello to his own daughter. Clara stood. The room erupted. Isabella broke free from Sean, ran to the stage, and jumped into Clara's arms. Clara caught her, held her. The photographers captured it. A 26-year-old grad student from Bridgeport holding an 8-year-old girl in a blue dress, both of them laughing while 400 of Chicago's wealthiest donors stood on their feet. Victoria's phone buzzed, then again, then a third time. 3 board members. Her seat on the foundation board would not be renewed. The video from the children's event, Isabella's signing, Clara's translation, had been posted online. It already had 200,000 views. Victoria stood, smoothed her dress, picked up her Prada clutch, walked toward the exit. Nobody stopped her. Nobody called after her. Nobody noticed. That was the punishment. Not humiliation, irrelevance. Isabella pulled back from Clara. She looked at her father. Then she taught him one last sign, the sign from her notebook. 2 hands opening outward, palms up, fingers spreading. People who try. Stellan signed it back. Then he looked at Clara. Not just with gratitude, with love, with the quiet understanding of a man who had finally learned that connection is not built with power. It is built with patience. And sometimes it begins with a single signed word. There are men who build empires and call it success, towers of glass and steel that touch the sky, and they stand at the top and wonder why it's so quiet up there. Stellan Whitmore was one of those men. He could move cargo across oceans. He could move markets with a phone call, but he couldn't move his hands to say, "I love you," in the only language his daughter understood. It took a waitress with chapped hands and a $9 wage to show him that the most expensive education in the world costs nothing, just the willingness to sit down, be clumsy, and try. There is no amount of money that can replace a father who shows up. No quarterly report that measures the value of a child's smile. And no gala seat fancy enough to matter if the person next to you is invisible. Isabella Whitmore waited 3 years with a crumpled flashcard in her pocket. 3 years. And when the world finally learned her word, it didn't come from wealth. It came from a single, imperfect, beautiful attempt. Hello? You don't build a family with a checkbook. You build it one clumsy word at a time, with hands that shake and a heart that shows up anyway, because love was never meant to be fluent. It was just meant to try. Victoria spent a year trying to push a deaf child out of a room her father paid for. If you cheered when the truth came out, hit subscribe, because in this channel, justice always finds its way home. A waitress making $9 an hour did what a billionaire's money couldn't. She said hello. If this story touched something in you, join our community. Subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Isabella waited 3 years with a flashcard in her pocket. 3 years for one word. If you believe that patience, not power, is the real currency, subscribe and turn on that bell. You don't want to miss what comes next.